It was time to take freelance from the twin ports of Superior-Duluth and back to our home port in the Apostle Islands. This time I had Tim and Perry along as crew, and we were all greatly looking forward to getting out on the big lake again. We exited the Superior entry about 9 o'clock. As forecasted, the weather was overcast and calm, so we left the sail covers on for now and let the diesel take us on a direct course towards our first waypoint, which was off the pretty lighthouse at Sand Island, about 55 nautical miles to the northeast. I expected the passage to be uneventful. There was a possibility of thunderstorms late in the afternoon, but we should be well within the Apostle Islands and hopefully at anchor someplace safe before they arrived. About half an hour later, we spotted a large upbound laker coming towards us on the steamer track. Our AIS identified it as a Stuart J. Court, a huge bulk carrier, which has the distinction of being the first 1,000-foot freighter on the Great Lakes when it entered service back in '72. The impressive ship passed us safely a fair distance to port and was soon left in our wake. We gradually came into an area of clear skies, but spotted the beginning of anvil-shaped thundercloud developments over the Minnesota North Shore, as well as behind us. We weren't too worried. We had plenty of time before they would reach us. The clouds go up to 40,000 feet and can be seen from a long way away. So for now, the thing to do was just to enjoy the warm summer weather.
I tell you what, it's a lot cooler standing up than it is sitting down, even underneath the dock.
Many people will tell you that sailing on Lake Superior is a cold, cold pleasure, and it often is. But there are many times when you're just silly with the summer heat and feel the need to do something about it. Usually the summer heat is mainly felt in the lake's sheltered coastal bays along its south shore, but it can also get quite warm offshore on windless days. This was one of those days, so Tim was quite right to go forward to enjoy the breeze generated by our boat's forward motion. Hal, our autopilot, was keeping us tight on our track, and we had about 4 hours to where we would make our first turn. All was routine, and I know the route well. I normally do this offshore run between Superior-Duluth and the Apostle once or twice a season, and have done it in all kinds of weather. This time we had planned for reasonable conditions and hoped for a chance to turn off the diesel and use the sails later in the day when the weather was supposed to change. It looked like that might just happen, but so far the approaching weather from behind had not caught up with us. Instead, the clouds were, for now, splitting and going up over the lake's north and south shores while leaving us with clear skies and sunshine. It's a common effect from the cool lake. I expected the weather would arrive about 3 o'clock. Until then, we would keep on our course, have some lunch in the cockpit, and wait for it. We were clicking off the miles as expected, going about 6.5 knots, which is my preferred cruising speed with the engine. And when we got closer to Bog Point, I picked up Sand Island, low on the horizon.
It's a little tough to see, but it is there.
Up a bit of flat sandbar. It's an exposed sandbar is all that thing is.
Well, there's some sandstone caves out there. There is some sandstone.
Caves, yeah. And it's not very tall.
Well,
The tallest thing on the island are those white pines that are some of them virgin.
well, Sand Island is a pretty spot.
It is a gorgeous place.
Yeah.
Love the lighthouse.
It's
That's
beautiful.
one of my favorite lighthouses.
The clouds stayed behind us and over the south shore, but there was an unfortunate change in a light northeasterly breeze. Its direction and strength became less and less favorable.
It's because I was really getting excited that we could go around. We could go around Sand Island and put up the sails. Yes. And what happened?
I must have jinxed that because I was the one that mentioned it.
Well, I've been thinking very hard about it, and there was just no way that it was it was gonna get away from me, but now it's going to the other side completely. That's not gonna happen. That's looks to me like that's some kind of thunderstorm behind that.
There's a thunderstorm. I've seen some lightning striking over there.
That back there, that looks like it could catch up with us. But what's the time right now? It's got to be about, we're about an hour and a half away from sand, right?
10:46. Hour, 40 minutes.
Well, it might hit us before we get into the islands, but I doubt it. It would be more logical that it would hit us around 4 o'clock, if it does at all.
So we kept going. There was really nothing else to do but hope we would avoid the worst of the thunderstorms. But it wasn't too long afterwards when we spotted a roll cloud. These long tube-like clouds are often associated with strong gusts and downdrafts from thunderstorms, and they are not a good sight to see. By the way, some say roll clouds are rare, but I've experienced them several times on the Great Lakes. This one fortunately missed us, passing to the south. At 3 o'clock, we were just about 6 miles away from our waypoint off the lighthouse, and I had a clear view of Sand Island. As Tim commented earlier, it's a low and heavily forested island. Sand is not the most westerly of the Apostle Islands. Eagle Island is, and there used to be another one by Eagle which was called Steamboat Island. That one unfortunately washed away in a violent September storm more than a century ago. But on a day like this, it's hard to imagine the lake having that kind of power. We were taking the route to the north of Sand, avoiding the shallow sandbar between its southern end and the mainland, and aimed to stand well off the sandstone ledges north of the point with its beautiful lighthouse. Along the way, we went past the white lighthouse bay. It can be a nice anchorage, but it was not favored on this particular day. At our waypoint, we would begin a gradual turn towards the southeast, and then pass between Sand Island and the shoal, where the 373-foot freighter Savannah was tragically wrecked in 1905. Its remains are still marked on the chart. Sand Island quickly fell behind us, and we could see that the dark clouds were now missing us to the north. Our timing with the weather had been perfect. Running on our GPS route and with Hal holding us tight on our new course, Freelance was now headed towards a gap between York Island and Pontytour. We preferred not to go all the way into Bayfield, but instead hoped to anchor out in a suitable spot for the night. There really wasn't any rush for us to get back into port that evening, and just maybe we would be able to use the sails in the morning. But choosing an anchorage would obviously depend on the predicted wind direction overnight, and the weather was unsettled. So, given the weather forecast, the logical choice was to go into Raspberry Bay on the mainland to drop the hook. It has good protection from the southeast clockwise to the west. I've been tucked in there in several hard blows, and we have always been all right. Perry was on the wheel taking us in, and the white anchorage soon came into view.
Well, I think it's going to be fine. And I think the best thing we can do is go in here, drop the anchor, and we'll listen to the weather forecast when they do the update. And if we want to go back into Port Superior or whatever,
Well, the update's at 7. We still got 2 hours of sunlight.
we could go in the dark if we wanted to.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Hot out there.
Yeah, it is when you're going along here at the same speed as the wind. It gets hot real quick.
That's off the shore.
Yeah.
Off the shore.
So why don't you go ahead and run out the anchor?
So Tim got the anchor ready, and Perry steered us the last stretch into the peaceful Raspberry Bay. The anchorage stayed calm through the night, and in the morning it was so still there was hardly any strain on Freelance's anchor chain. It was also very pleasant, but it was also very disappointing. We had really hoped for a decent sailing breeze during our return to the marina. Unfortunately, this proved to be another motoring day. We fired up the diesel after having a leisurely breakfast, and Perry again had the wheel while Tim took up the anchor with our electric windlass. It sure is a great convenience to have that windlass instead of still having to haul in the rod and anchor hand over hand.
You can swing us out here. We want to head over to Raspberry Point over here.
So we headed out of the anchorage towards Raspberry Point, where we turned southeast down the calm Lighthouse Channel, which is between the mainland and Oak Island. And we only had a couple of hours to go in very familiar waters, so we didn't even bother to program the GPS's waypoints and route functions. It's one of those areas in the Apostles that we know so very well, and it's so straightforward that we can easily manage here with just visual piloting. At the buoy at Red Cliff Point, we turned freelance south into the West Channel. It leads down along the mainland towards the marinas at Bayfield. Along the way, you pass the village of Red Cliff with its small marina and prominent waterfront casino, and then the marina at Royce Point before you reach Bayfield. Bayfield is where Vicky and I for years kept freelance in the Apostle Islands Marina, which is the one right downtown, before getting a slip at Port Superior, which is just a couple of miles further south in Pikes Bay.